Hello, everyone. It's Vern here from Fixing My Faith. Well, if you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness or anyone else who's been harmed by a high control group like the Watchtower, I want to show you something today that could change your life. It's something simple, something you can do from home. You don't need a lawyer. You don't need an advocate. All you need is your story. So let me show you how easy it is to file a human rights complaint no matter where you live in the world, right after this. Every day in the comments, I see that there's more and more people that are looking into the human rights aspect of things. And so I thought, well, maybe I should take a look myself. So I just went onto the internet here and plugged in human rights. And up comes, I live in a province called British Columbia, so they call it the BC Human Rights Tribunal. And there's a complaint process, how to make a complaint. Now, when you click into that, it's here. And all of this, it's not a group thing. This is a personal thing because you have to make personal decisions. Like here, there's an Indigenous peoples and human rights, one just for human rights. So I'm Indigenous, so I'm going to be clicking on that one, and we'll do it in just a bit. But before we do that, I want to show you that there's other tribunals. In fact, the more I do the research, every province in Canada, there's a Human Rights Commission. So this is Alberta, the next province over. So then I wanted to know, what about in the US? Well, here I plugged in Washington State. You can file a complaint there. Human Rights Commission. And they have file a complaint, know your rights, protect them. And then there's a whole, what is a protected class. So again, they want to know your, if you're Indigenous or whoever you are, there's a whole section there. So each of these complaints, it's not a group complaint, I thought it was, but it's not. It's a personal complaint, and you file a complaint. Here's for the New York State. So we go from one end of the US to the other, and it looks like in every state, if this is the way it is, I haven't looked at every state, but apparently all over the world there's a tribunal in your area. So if you're in the UK, if you're in Australia, just Google it, just plug it in, find out where it is. This is the New York State one, and they're quite detailed, so you go into it. I'll go into mine here, and we'll take a look at it. But I want to talk a little bit about why does all of this matter? Why does all of this matter? Well, it all matters because when you come out of the cult, when you come out of the grasp, the rigid grasp of a high control cult, and you somehow get your way out, there's repercussions. You're going to be shunned, you're going to be disfellowshipped. There's all kinds of things that happen. But on the outside now, you feel discriminated. You feel discriminated. And that's what this is about, these human rights. It's about discrimination. And the more of us that raise our voice as ex-JWs into these tribunals or these human rights commissions, it creates a bigger awareness for the country, the politicians that are running the country. So here in Canada, the politicians that are running the Canadian country, the finance minister is looking at Jehovah's Witnesses and not sure if they should be classified as a charity religion. Why? Well, he's looking at all the religions. They do a blanket statement. But why? Because they're not contributing to feeding the poor. That's what it's stated. To helping the poor, feeding the poor. You see, that's what people expect when you donate to a charitable organization. You expect that money that you're donating for that cause, that the money is going to go there. Well, with JW.org, the money does not go there. The money goes to printing literature. The money goes to what they call their worldwide preaching work. They're making videos, and they're building movie studios in Australia. Now they're building Ramapo in New York. This is a movie production company. They do very, very little on humanitarian needs. They go in and take insurance money and fix a few houses, but they're not in the front line. They're not in the front line. Sometimes they advocate sometimes, but the amount of money they're putting into humanitarian aid, like 12 million a year, is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket for $1 trillion organization that's buying $27 million pieces of property just to buy them. So this organization is being questioned from all angles, and we can do our part as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses by telling our story. Why does it matter? Well, if you don't tell your story, what ends up happening is you get angry and you hold it all in and you get bitter and you live your life. You go on and you live your life. It never really carries on. You're always living in this, I got disfellowshipped, I got shunned, I can't talk to my family. We're living in this ex-JW world parallel to the organization, hoping someday they'll loosen up on their rules so you can talk to your family again. So that's what some of us are dealing with. It makes us angry. It makes us angry. I know for many of us, when I first started to wake up, well, when I left the organization, I was angry. And then time went on, but it's when they really officially shun you, spread that around, and you feel it. Your friends that once used to talk to you no longer talk to you. Your family no longer talks to you. Even family that have left, they no longer talk to you. Ones that are on the outskirts of the organization, still associating with them, they will not talk to an apostate. So you've alienated yourself. That's what I have done by writing a few books, alienated myself from the organization, not knowing it. I didn't know it was against Jehovah's Witness human rights to leave the organization, write a book. I was never disfellowshipped. I just walked out. They had nothing on me. I wrote Bethel a 7-page letter like a lot of you guys have done. And then when I started to wake up 8 years later, it was because I met an elder again, thought everything was good, gave him an Indigenous Bible study. I was doing all Indigenous lands. That's what I was witnessing in. And I didn't know that would backfire on me. It did. They demonize you. So that's my case. I've said it many times on the channel. That's what I'm going to fill out. It's just my story. It's nothing big. But it's discrimination. It's wrong. And we have to voice that. I think it's important that we voice it. If we don't tell our stories, we sit at home, we watch these videos, we watch other creators online telling their stories, and we feel like we don't have a voice. We don't have a lawyer, many don't have a therapist, many don't have an advocate. You get out, you're all alone. There's no one out there speaking for you. So I understand. I went through the stages of feeling angry. I even wrote letters to my MP a couple times. Nothing happened. Wrote letters to the police. Nothing happened. You can write a lot of letters. Nothing happens. So let's see what happens here with the tribunal. Now, here's what I do remember, folks. I was pioneering for enough years. I got to go to the pioneer school, I think, a couple of times. And they talk about freedom of religion. What happens if you're out in a community and they chase you out? Their legal department wants to know, because now they have a human rights issue, a freedom of religion issue. So a lot of times they get the pioneer to go to a human rights this thing and do your whole story. You're out in the ministry and you got chased out and they sucked the dogs after you and they hollered and swore at you and maybe they threw rocks at you. I don't know. But the thing is, you never want to talk about, you never stretch your story. You never tell falsehoods on this stuff. It catches up to you. For us ex-JWs, don't do that. They didn't JWs don't train you to do that anyways. They just want you to get on there. And then their lawyer, there's a group, so they can actually go in against the human rights from a group standpoint. And that's how they fight their freedom of religion. They use these human rights tribunals. And it's a whole process. So it's free. No one has to, you don't have to hire anybody. There's a whole process here. We can take a quick comb through here while we're on this site. About us. You can, there's a whole section there about us. This is the BC one. Everyone's probably a little different. It's supposed to be independent. That's what it says here. It's based on the Human Rights Code. So it's responsible for accepting, screening, and mediating and adjudicating human rights complaints. Why is that important? You see, anger turned inward without a therapist, without help, is very dangerous. And there's things happening all over the world that's affecting innocent Jehovah's Witnesses, like bombings at Kingdom Halls and things like that. Shootings. It's getting worse. There's lots of stuff. So Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, it's important for you to tell your story. When I was a Jehovah's Witness, if your freedom of religion was broken, they want to be involved legally. They want the human rights. They want the freedom of religion, and they push it. So now we get out. We're discriminated. We just walked out. We're discriminated. We did nothing wrong. Just wanted to get a breath of fresh air on the other side of the fence and not and get our mind out of that watchtower for a little bit. See if it's real. That's what I did. I just wanted to get out. Pretty soon 8 years went by and I was remarried. To get out, I had to go through a divorce. It was all good though. It was all worth it. Worth it big time. It was a huge financial cost, but it was all worth it. That was the biggest move, the best move, is just to get out, get some fresh air, let your mind rest from all the Watchtower dogma. We found in the last assembly, right out the gate, they mentioned Satan, the devil or demon or something 54 times. And they only mentioned love 8 times. In the whole morning of session, all the 3 videos, went through them. So, folks, this is not a loving religion. So if you have a story, you get on there, you tell it. These guys screen it, they meditate it or mediate it. Online, us ex-JWs, we can't do any of that. I can get online and interview you and you can tell your story, but it does no good. It has to go through the right channels, folks. Let's use the same channels that Watchtower uses against the whole wide world out there. We just use the very same channels. The Human Rights Tribunal. So once you get in, there's a whole, right here, there's a complaint process. So there's a whole human rights complaint process. My role in the process, the tour. You can do a tour of the tribunal here. And this is all online, folks. You don't have to go down there. You get in, you can make a complaint. Here's the complaint page. It gets you to consider all the things you're complaining about. It's just a little bit of reading. You go down through the form, and it's not COVID-19. You can fast track your complaint for urgent complaints. Let's say you're recently out of the Watchtower and there's some really bad stuff that happened to you. You read this, fast track the process. I don't need to do that. I'm just going to file a complaint. So I'm just going to go in there. Then I'm into this complaint section. And there's different forms. So you can do a PDF offline right here for an individual. Or you can help another person if you're authorized to file for another person. There's a form for that. And then there's a complaint for a group or a class of people. So are the ex-JWs a class of people, a group? Well, kind of we are. We are like a group of people. And I think maybe that's what some in the community on the comments are maybe referring to. But before you do a group of, for a class of people, the starting place is for yourself. So you get your own story out there. You go through the whole process to see if you have a case. They'll go through and mediate for you to see if you have a case. So that's what this is all about. You can file a retaliation complaint. Don't know what that is. So probably what'll happen is you do your complaint against the Watchtower, and the Watchtower will file their complaint against you. That's probably what could happen. If you're disfellowshipped, Watchtower, like they did in the Supreme Court case that they advertised on JW.org for Canada, where Wall went up against Watchtower, went all the way to the Supreme Court. Wall is from Calgary, Alberta, was disfellowshipped, and he lost all his business because of discrimination. So he sued because of that. He won at the local level. He won. Watchtower, of course, brings it all the way up to Supreme Court, and he lost. And what did they do in Supreme Court? They brought up all the things that you did wrong. They combed through Wall's life on public and made him a public display and turned him into an animal. He was beating his wife up. He was an alcohol abuser. I think he even committed fornication. I don't know, but they made him look bad, and Wall had no defense. His lawyer did squat that I seen. Squat. And his lawyer let the Watchtower get away with saying, well, disfellowshipping isn't that bad of a thing. We're going to have Mr. Wall come back in, and he can have association, just not spiritual. He can associate with his family. We want him back in. And it got thrown out of Supreme Court. He lost. So, folks, that's what I think could happen. Retaliation complaint. Depending on your case, that's why we're not all the same. We all have separate little cases. But depending on how you exited the Watchtower, believe me, they will use that back on you. Just like Wall. They do it in Supreme Court. So that's what Watchtower does. So be prepared. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't get your case out. Because even if you were disfellowshipped for smoking, well, that's laughable. That's stupid. If you're disfellowshipped for masturbating or for fornication, it's no big deal. It's not a big deal. Adultery, well, they're going to say, well, you got that. That's how that religion works. Freedom of religion. The Hutterites do it. The Mennonites do it. The Mormons do it. That's how all these religions do. So every case is a bit different. And I think that's why it's important that we can't speak for the group. We have to file our own case. But the more cases that Human Rights gets from ex-Jehovah's Witnesses around the world will make a difference. So I'm going to go to work and do mine for under the Indigenous. I will get back to you on this channel at a later date and let you know if something comes out of it. And I think the more of us that do it, the more we get out. It's a formal, official complaint. So just be honest. Just be very honest. Don't stretch it. Don't exaggerate. If you don't know dates, tell them you don't know dates. If you know approximate dates, put approximate dates in. Just don't exaggerate. Be honest. All the way through. It's just so easy to remember. Well, because you're just remembering what happened. You don't have to remember how you stretched the truth at the beginning to make it look like a big case. We don't want that. That's what Watchtower does. They get into court, they stretch things, they tell it sideways, they slant it, and pretty soon you from the outside, if you're a judge, you think, disfellowshipping's not that bad. I'd disfellowship that guy too, this is what the jury starts thinking. So we just tell the case the way it is. And we're being discriminated. I can't talk to my daughter for, forever. And if you've listened to the Watchtower Assembly this year, they've reinforced that. They had a whole section on apostates. If you're an apostate, you are as good as dead. So here's a piece of advice for you. You're not dead to the Watchtower if you privately go online and go through the complaint process with your Human Rights Tribunal. You're not dead to them because they don't know. And also they do the same thing. You see? But no one needs to know what you're doing. You don't need to. Now you can get it out. You feel better. You put it all out to this tribunal. Your people are listening to you. You got a response coming in. Maybe they're going to invite you for a meeting. Maybe it's an online meeting. You know, it's nothing scary. People, they just want to know your story. They want to listen to it. And I think that's important. Watchtower doesn't need to know. You're still PMO. You tell your story. Maybe tell your story. I'm trapped inside here. I can't leave. I'm afraid to leave. Tell your story. Be honest. Because I think there's a lot of people in the Watchtower that just can't leave. They don't know what to do. They have no advocate. They have no way of getting their story out. So they're bottling all of this stuff up inside, and it's not healthy. In fact, it can be dangerous. So folks, this is an outlet. It's a private one. There's all kinds of private places. Go sit by a lake. You got a cell phone. You can do this all off a cell phone. It's that easy. So yeah. If you've been harmed by the Watchtower, you have a right to tell your story. Don't wait for someone else. Don't wait for me to tell it. Don't wait for someone else in the community to do it for you. You do it. You tell your story. Google your Human Rights Tribunal or Commission today. Find the form, fill it out, file it. That's your voice. That's your story. And that's how we can make a change together. Thanks for watching. Remember, live your life with love. That's what I'm doing. And I hope you will join me. See you on the next video.